Our next honoree survived the traumatic experience of being a victim of the Japanese internment program, served in the U.S. Navy for over 40 years, and today inspires school children with golden rule examples that help overcome fear, bitterness, and hatred. Call your attention to the screens.
On the morning of December 7th, 1941, Japan launched a surprise military attack on Pearl Harbor. This attack directly led to the United States entering World War II. Consequently, it also caused anyone in the U.S. with Japanese heritage to be looked at suspiciously. Japanese Americans had already faced racism and discrimination for nearly 100 years. Now, many Americans thought that Japanese Americans might be more loyal to Japan than the U.S. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese persecution increased. The hatred and paranoia toward the Japanese was particularly great along the west coast of the United States. On February 19, 1942, Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066. It ordered the roundup of 120,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry to one of 10 concentration camps, which were officially called relocation centers. Over 2/3 of the Japanese who were locked up were American citizens. The vast majority had never even been to Japan. Americans who were as little as 1/16 Japanese could be placed in the camps. Even Japanese American veterans of World War I were forced to evacuate their homes.
Two of the largest camps were in Arizona. 75-year-old Thomas Kosecki was in first grade when he and his family were bused from Los Angeles to the Gila River Relocation Center southeast of Phoenix. It became home for more than 13,000 Japanese Americans.
You know, we rode on the Greyhound bus, and we arrived in Camp 1 at night, and all these spotlights and everything on the main gate, and we had to depart from the bus. It was a weird feeling, you know, with all these military guards around. I always wondered myself, you know, why was I born Japanese? You know, why wasn't I born a Caucasian? And, you know, things really suffered when you had no control over what takes place. You'll be surprised going out there that there's nothing. You know, we had a great big water tank. We had men and women's showers, and we had men and women toilet. We had a big mess hall. Oh, the food was atrocious. They had so many people to push through that mess hall that the food was half cooked. Liver, I mean, it was bloody in the middle. And my dad would cut it up and wanted me to eat it, but I just couldn't do it. It was some life, I tell you, to grow up in. I don't know, looking back on it, I'm glad that I can, you know, pass on what happened to me to the younger generation and hope that, you know, that it never happens again.
The forced relocation of Japanese Americans to concentration camps during World War II is one of the most despicable acts performed by the government in U.S. history. Today, we remember it as a tragedy, but it's important to remember that most Americans accepted it or even encouraged it while it was happening. After all, a 1944 opinion poll found that 13% of Americans were in favor of killing all Japanese. Today, minorities of all kinds continue to be marginalized in society. But it's satisfying to know that today we look back at the Japanese internment camps as a deplorable and horrible mistake.
And I'm so proud today, on the 75th anniversary of Executive Order 9066, to look out in this room and see just tremendous diversity. See what you could do as an individual every day to reach out to somebody who may not look like you, who may be different from you, but take a chance and think like maybe they could use a friendly hand Because to me, as an immigrant, I think that's the best part about the United States. So I want to thank all of you for coming together today and to help us remember the past, but also to look forward to the future of how we could best make this country safer and stronger in unity. Okay, thank you.
The recipients of the Humanitarian Golden Rule Award, Thomas Kosecki, the Japanese American Citizens League, and accepting for them Midori Hall. And we're inviting other Japanese internment survivors, please come to the foot of the stage and be a part of our ceremony, if you will. Midori Hall.
Thank you very much. I feel very honored to accept this award for Tom Kosecki, and I wish that he could be here so that you could all meet him in person. He's one of the most wonderful, gentle, kind, loving men. How we met is from the time I was born in the Gila River internment camp, one of the first babies born there, so that was in August of 1942. And I have a memory from the time I was about 2 years old, and that is of seeing 3 boys coming from the desert. One boy, an older boy, was pushing a cart, and in it was some red fruit. I didn't know what it was, but on either side of the cart were 2 children, 2 boys, laughing and just so joyful. That memory has been embedded in my mind all my life. 2.5 years ago, at the dedication of the Nozomi Park in Chandler, which is being dedicated to those who were interned in the Gila River, and Tom was one of the speakers, and afterwards I introduced myself to Tom, and I said that I was born in the canal camp, and he said I was there too. And so maybe we were neighbors, and so we were sharing memories. And at one point, Tom said, "I'll never forget those pomegranates." And I said, "Tom, I don't know if they were pomegranates or not, but I remember," and I told him what I remembered seeing of the 3 boys. And he looked at me and he said, "Midori, that was me and my 2 friends." Tom lives in Mesa, I live in Gilbert, and so we've been exchanging visits and had the pleasure of taking him to the Gila River camp not too long ago. And Tom loves music, and so we've shared music together. Thank you so much, and I hope that someday you'll get to meet Tom in person. Thank you very much.